So we're going to integrate using trig substitution the integral of x cubed over the square root of x squared plus 100. So if we think of the x squared like a box, so it's box squared plus, and the 100 can become a 1. So that is going to be tangent squared plus 1. So our first step is we're going to write this as x cubed, and I'm going to factor 100 from the square root. So it's like dividing. So I put 100 here, and I have x squared over 100 plus 1 dx. So now the square root of 100 comes out, so I can put the 1/10 here, and I have x cubed over square root of x squared over 100 plus 1 dx. So I'm going to set x squared over 100 equal to tangent squared theta, because that's the piece that we're using. My next step, I always take the square root, and I get x over 10 is tangent theta. So I'm going to put the triangle. So here's theta, the right triangle, and tangent is opposite x over adjacent 10. And now by the Pythagorean, this is going to be x squared plus 100, and it's the square root of that. And that's a good double check that we're dealing with the right expression from the original problem. So now we say x is tangent theta, 10 tangent theta, because then we're going to do dx. And now we get that dx is 10. The derivative of tangent is secant squared theta d theta. So I'm going to be doing a substitution. So in here was my tangent squared plus 1. My dx will be the 10 secant squared. And the x right here is going to be cubed, but I'm going to put the 10 tangent. 10 tangent theta, and that will be cubed. So we're going to do the substitution, and that's why it's called trig substitution. So we have 1/10. The integral x will be replaced with 10 tangent theta, which will be cubed. The dx gets replaced with 10 secant squared theta d theta. And now the denominator is tangent squared theta plus 1. Now here, this was just secant squared, so I'm going to take the square root of that. Okay, so now, working this out, I have 1/10. The integral of 10 cubed is 1,000. And then I've got times another 10, so it's 10,000. Tangent cubed theta, I've got a secant squared theta d theta. And then in the denominator, the square root of secant squared, which is just secant theta. So now this can cancel, and I've got just one secant. And sure enough, this cancels, and I've got just 1,000. So now this is 1,000, the integral of tangent cubed theta secant theta d theta. And now I have a trig integral to work. So now in working this, I'm going to break out a tangent secant. So I have 1,000, the integral of tangent squared theta, but then I have a tan theta secant theta d theta. And this, of course, will be my du for u substitution. So if tangent theta secant theta d theta is du, then my u is secant, which means I have to transform tangent squared into secant squared. So tangent squared is secant squared theta minus 1. So this is really u squared minus 1 du. So working this out, I have 1,000 u squared minus 1 du which is 1,000 u cubed over 3 minus u plus a constant. So now I'm going to replace u, which is secant theta, and I have 1,000 secant cubed theta over 3 minus secant theta plus a constant. But I have one more step. I have to get back to x. To get back to x, I have to go to that triangle. And the triangle came from the fact that x over 10 was tangent theta. So we're going to go back with a triangle. So I know x over 10 is tangent theta, which gives me a triangle, opposite over adjacent, and there we have square root of x squared plus 100. And I am now ready to use this triangle to put in secant. So this will become 1,000. The secant of theta is hypotenuse over adjacent, so square root of x squared plus 100 over 10, that's being cubed, divided by 3. Let's put another thing there. Minus secant, which is hypotenuse over adjacent, square root of x squared plus 100 over 10, plus a constant. Okay, so now simplifying, I've done most of the work. It is just 1,000 square root of x squared plus 100 cubed over 1,000 and then times 3 minus 1,000 square root of x squared plus 100 over 10 plus a constant. And I'm ready for one last step. So the final answer is, these thousands cancel, so my final answer is radical x squared plus 100 cubed over 3, and then this cancels here, minus 100 radical x squared plus 100 plus a constant. If I wanted to get fancy, I could write this answer as square root of x squared plus 100 over 3 times x squared minus 200 plus a constant.